Fantastic. Thank you very much for that introduction. Good day to all of you, also online. Today I want to share with you a very special topic, leadership and AI. And for this, I want to go back to one of my very first assignments, professional assignments that I had. I was the head of strategy for dishwashing liquid at Procter & Gamble. Typically, when I mention that role, I can see the excitement in the eyes. Yes, that does exist. There are also worse roles that you can have over there. But dishwashing was an interesting one. Why was it interesting for me? Because of two things. First of all, I looked at strategic planning a lot, and it was also my first leadership role. And that was around about 14 years ago. Since then, lots of things have changed. I've left P&G. I now look at leadership more from an external view, from a lecture point of view, from a research point of view. And another thing has happened. An elephant has entered the room as well, and that elephant, of course, is artificial intelligence. Now, what is very interesting in these two fields that I've studied in one of my first roles, strategic planning and leadership in this dishwashing role, in the field of strategic planning, there are massive advancements taking place in terms of predictive analytics and so on, and it's already relatively well understood. One thing, though, that I've wondered myself is, okay, what is the impact that we have of leadership on AI and AI? What will be the impact of AI on the whole field and the whole topic of leadership? There are different kinds of developments that we see and predictions that we see. Some people say, like leadership and AI. Finally, with AI, we can get rid of all these leaders. We won't have any leaders anymore. Organizations will be free of leaders. We won't have them anymore. They won't annoy us anymore. That could be one field, one direction, but I don't really think that is going to happen, at least not in the very near future. Much rather, I think something else will happen, and something else is true when it comes to organizations. And there we have to go back to the words of the very wise Peter Drucker. He once said something very wise about the field of organizations and what happens in organizations. And he said once, only three things happen naturally in organizations. And that is friction, confusion, and underperformance. For that, you don't have to do anything. That happens just like that. But everything else requires leadership. Everything else requires leadership. And I really do think as well, when we look at all of the impacts that artificial intelligence will bring on organizations, leadership will play a key role, and we'll even see that leadership will even have a stronger role in the future. Now, what are some of the fields? Why do I think leadership will play a key role, and also AI will maybe have a supporting role towards leadership, but leadership will be one of the key things? Why do I think that? One of the indicators that we see is that we look at studies of leadership and IQ. Basically, if we look at artificial intelligence, let's look at real intelligence at the moment, and let's look at who are the best leaders. Are the smartest people, the people with the highest IQ, are they typically the best leaders? Typically not. If we look at studies somewhere, it helps to have some general good intelligence, but as of an IQ of 120 and so on, it flattens out and actually then becomes negatively correlated with a high impact for leadership. There is more to leadership than just IQ. So I don't think that AI will take over the role of leaders. No, leaders will play a massive role. And I think especially I want to zoom in on three special fields. That where we see a huge interconnection of AI and a huge new role of leadership with the advance of technologies that I would summarize under the whole field of AI. Let's look at three different ones. And the first one there I see where it's going to be really interesting and a key role of leaders in the future, especially with all the fields of predictive analytics coming. That is a field which I would call organized reality bending. Organized reality bending, a key role of leaders in the future. Why is that? One example, let's travel back 110 years to the city of New York. They had a problem there, as the story goes, of horse manure. A lot of horses, a lot of horse carriages, and people were thinking, okay, how can you optimize the horse manure? What do we do with all of that with more and more horses coming? Now, if you would have said typical optimization models on this, you would have got fantastic answers on where to store and how to optimize and so on. But as we know, a couple of years later, that was not a question at all anymore. And why was that? Because a new invention that was unknown before came in. And that is going to be a key task of leaders even more in the future. Vivian Mang once said, the only thing I need you useless bags of tissue to focus on is to explore the unknown, because an AI cannot do that. Maybe we can say yet, because an AI cannot do that. And that is something that we see is really the task of leadership, to really focus, to vision into the future. So one of the things in the past decades, we focused a lot on leadership on topics like, okay, ask 5 times why to get to the bottom of the problem. There we might get support by optimization models. I think the key question of the future will be very often more like 5 times what if, imagining, exploring the unknown, organizing that, bringing that together, key task of leadership. Second focus area where we'll see an intersection of AI and humans is the human-AI interaction itself. And there we've seen also over the past decades an interesting development. Some of you in the room or maybe online will remember some of the first interactions with AI, and the first one that I remember was Clip It. In some countries, it was called Carl Klammer, and somewhere else. So if you open up Excel and ask a question, sometimes this whole thing came up and says like, hey, can I help you? Can I help you? For those of you who have ever experienced that, you will see like that was not really helpful. That was rather annoying at the time. Similar today, I think today's version of this one, at least in my sense, is Pepper. You know, this is coming up all over the place and say like, hello, can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? And very often people think like, you know, leadership in the future will be managing a bunch of peppers, so to speak, that will be running around. But if we look at the current technology development, I don't think this will be the place at all. I see much rather AI will be so intuitive and so easily integrated in our workflow that we might not even have to lead the robot itself. Much rather what it will take away a lot of the more monotonous tasks of the individual, leaving basically the group of people who have to connect the information there. And that will be even a stronger leadership task of the future. How to engage those, how to make sure that we don't end up in this scenario, basically, but we do end up in a scenario where when Anne and Mark and Fred and Mary and Tom work together and need to collaborate together, then they don't always fight with themselves, but actually that they will do what humans can do best, which is not basically to do the analysis anymore. There we see like this will go away. But what we actually do and what people need to do is to connect, be the connectors of information. What doesn't help in these scenarios then is if Tom says, well, but I don't do anything if Mark is in the same room, and Fred says like, oh, I want to be in this position at all. But we have to create environments where people can continuously connect, reach out, connect, reach out, connect, reach out. And so the leadership task will be then really to help people free up the individuals. Questions that leaders will need to ask in the question like, who can you connect with? Who can you connect that with? How can you connect that further? And really zoom into these fields. And that leads us to the last field. And that is decision framing. And I think that field will be a highly important one in the future. And especially when it comes to the role of leadership. Because what we do see at the moment, again, what we do see in the field of predictive analytics, forecasting, a lot of models on how can we optimize things, how can we optimize stuff, what will be the forecast, we see a huge revolution, forecast optimization, all of this is happening, planning optimization, all of this is happening. But the question will be, with all of these tools come in, what do leaders do with that? How do we decide? Of course, we could ask Watson then with our field like, so what do I do with Tom? Watson says, fire Tom, and to say, okay, go out and fire Tom. That's probably not going to happen. What we'll most likely do more and more, and ask more and more, and have more and more, is more and more information that will come in our place. And that's what we see already at the moment. We see more and more information coming to the leader. Now, we could say, hey, some of the stuff will be decisions will be automated, we take automated stuff from it, that's it. But I don't think, as we see with the example of Tom, should I fire Tom or not, probably we won't go out and let that automated happen, go with that, unless it will be another data point. And I think one of the things that we will see and we are seeing at the moment is more and more data points coming, more and more options, more and more things coming to our place, more and more information. Now, that might be optimized, might be not. It might be predictive, might be not. But for all of you who have ever worked in field and gotten things done, you will see that, you know, it's not information. It's not the only thing that happens. It's the decision that counts. Derek Sivers once says, if information would be the answer, then we would all be billionaires with perfect apps. Basically, if all it takes is somebody saying, do that, then that would be easy. But the task is not that easy. So what we'll do and what we need in the future is something different, is really very strong decision framing and decision frameworks. I'll give you one example for that. I was once involved in a sourcing study, where to place a new plant, a new manufacturing plant. We might have these in the future as well, these discussions. And of course, you can optimize that further and further on. You can run it through a model and tell you at this place. The fun part, though, starts is if you start to implement this. If you start to implement it, and the people come to you and say, like, hey, I want to build this here. It's like, yeah, but building regulations say I can't. OK, you update your model instead of building regulations, and you place it here. And it's like, oh, no, there's a new group of people who say, no, you can't place it there. That's when the interesting thing comes in, and that's where the leadership task comes in. And I think the key tasks, like very, very implementable tasks that we'll see in the future with leaders to do is the ability to put a stick in the ground, say, like, where's enough? Basically, we have all of these information, like, where's enough? Where do we say, like, we don't need more information? We act even if we have all optimization and uncertainty. And to build, so to speak, a frame around that, a frame based on what are our decision criteria here in this company, in this organization, in this association? Where do we draw the line? What is the ethical background? This will be one of the key things for the leader of the future to do and to be much more clear about. So we've looked into various fields. We've looked into, I think, one of the key tasks or key focus areas, organized reality bending, really jumping into the unknown, one of the key things. Human, and I put now AI in brackets because I think a lot of tasks that are very operational will be taken away. What will stay is really that key interaction and really getting this engagement right. Plus, decision framing will be one of the key things in the future that we'll look and dive more and more into. Now, if you look at this, a lot of these tasks have been tasks of leadership in the past as well. And what I do think, what will happen with the advance in the next coming year, in the next years, 10 years to come with AI, is that we will see with leadership and AI that we'll dive down to true leadership, where operational, organizational tasks will be stripped away and that we'll really focus on the true leadership. So I think the future of leadership and the importance of leadership is not going down, it's even going up. Thank you very much.